Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Evenings with the Filmmakers at the 17th Animateka International Animated Film Festival online edition. We are live from Animateka studio in Šiška district, Ljubljana city, Slovenia. Actually, live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, as well. Chris Robinson, director of Ottawa International Animated Film Festival, which will co-host with me this evening, this lovely evening, with talks with the authors in the main competition program. Hi, Chris.
Hello. Hello. I'm in a kitchen in Ottawa. I'm not in Toronto.
I'm sorry, it's Ottawa, Ontario, right?
I haven't been to Toronto for years.
Okay, Ottawa, Ontario. Good. And let's present the authors that are with us tonight for this first session of the main competition program. At Animateka, the main competition is with films from Central and Eastern European countries only. So with us, Tomek Ducki, the author of the film Plantarium, directly from Bielsko-Biała, Poland. Hello, Tomek. Also with us, Robin Klengel, Leonhard Müllner, and Michael Stump, the authors of How to Disappear from Austria, even though they are not all in Austria. We will know later on where are they based in this moment.
Hello.
Also, I'm happy to present Samuel Patthey, the co-director of the film Peel, joining from Switzerland.
Hello.
And last but not least, Natko Stipaničev, the director of the film Arka, joining in from Zagreb, Croatia.
Hello.
I will first open for the very first time in this Animateka online edition. This one is a special one. It's homemade from Serbia. Rastko Čirić brought it last year, so it was a great opportunity to open it tonight. And let's disinfect ourselves because I think that we all need it. Cheers to everybody first. Cheers. Na zdravje.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, we have followers online, our audience is there, and we will give to everybody a chance to ask you also some questions. If me and Chris, we have many of them already prepared, but around the 30th minute of this live stream, we will make a short pause and we will see if there are some intelligent questions coming from the audience that is following us from all around the world. I will start, Chris, if you allow me, with Tomek Ducki with Plantarium, and I will just introduce Tomek fast. So Tomek Ducki is a Hungarian-Polish animation director and designer born in Budapest in 1982. He studied animation at the Moholy-Nagy University of Art and Design in Hungary and at the National Film and Television School in the UK. But for the past 10 years, he's based in Poland, where he works and collaborates with local artists and studios. His distinctive style is heavily influenced by both the Polish and the Hungarian school of animation and poster design. His unmistakable style is characterized by the blending of different animation techniques, visually mesmerizing color combinations, and hidden stories. So, Tomek, for your last film, Plantarium, you used again mixed techniques. Could you explain which different materials you use to construct your characters and which animation techniques to animate them?
Hi. So first of all, I really like the title Planetarium, but the correct title is Plantarium, which is basically means a greenhouse in Latin. So the techniques were, it was heavily done under camera with a lot of organic materials, which were decaying while we were working on them, mainly tissues from paper and other cloth type of materials, and also rocks. And we were kind of using it on a flat surface, but you know, it's hard to explain, but it's a combination of a few things to underline the dramaturgy of the film and to have this kind of physical feeling of how the tissues work inside the body. Yes, it's hard to explain without showing it how it was built.
Okay, but did you collect all those materials, organic and inorganic, by yourself, or you had like a special selection, or you decided what to use on the spot?
Yes, yeah. Well, the technique was sort of developed during some commercial works. So in a way, I had part of the things already like worked out. But yes, there are. If I want to be very specific, we borrowed a lot of minerals from a collector and just yeah. The other stuff was just, you know, paint and very cheap things. Yeah.
Okay, Chris?
Nothing exciting.
With the technique in this tissue paper, was it something you wanted to work with, or did you have your story first and you wanted to find a technique that?
Yes, I had the story first. And it came along during the development. I'm kind of doing when I'm developing a project, I'm trying to do on all levels. So while I was finishing the writing, I was also testing and finding the visual language. So, but yeah, mainly the story came before the technique.
Yeah. And what was the sort of starting point with the story? Because it seems to me it can be read as a parent-child, father, son, or whatever, like basic, you know, that giving to each other, giving and taking away. Was that sort of the starting point, and then you expanded from there? Assuming that's what I read. But.
Yes, well, that was the let's say that was the material which was sticking together all this film, this kind of motive of father and son, or someone who is with a child, like parenting. It's not necessarily, but anyway, like a grown male and a little boy. So that was the motive which stick together, but I'm usually working on different symbols and motifs, and they come together in mysterious ways at the end. And yeah, so yeah, so I had already plans for a father and son type of project, and I had also some other bits, and then I just realized this all works together. And I think I was hesitating for a long time to choose this kind of subject, father and son, because I thought it's like very basic and maybe it's too many things are already told. But then when I started to do research, which are the stories or which are the father and son pictures in our culture, which are very apparent, I found that is usually so. Well, there's not really. I haven't found so many things, so I thought I can do a lot of things with it.
Okay, I have a question about the space, or actually the world. The underground world where your characters lives in the film is bleak, suffocating, and disturbing, but also magical in a way. Can you tell us more about this world? Is it a metaphor for anything, this underground cave?
Yeah, so I was looking for a space where this life is kind of artificial. So also the plants are growing in pots, and also where the light has a very strong it's showing somehow how the time is passing. So it's kind of, let's say, it's a metaphor for a greenhouse where the plants are artificially kept alive, but it's also this kind of cave. It also comes from old mythology, because I was looking for very old motifs of father and something, and I thought, well, it's usually it's something about Oedipus and his son. So I thought I can go on this path. I don't know how much sense it makes what I say, and yeah, so mainly, yes, I was looking for, in a way, a magical space where you can feel how the time is, the speed of the time is changing with the lighting, and also you feel that it's something alive, but it's artificial, so you have to work to keep it alive,
Mm-hmm. And maybe just to add to this, there is a ladder. So what is there at the end of this ladder? Even though we never see what's outside there, but do you know it as a director? Is it important for you that you know what is up there?
Yeah, well, there is it's just it's just a sign that there is an exit from that. So at the beginning there was even scenes like in the outer world, but I try to keep it very minimal. So that's just a sign that it's not a closed thing. So you can exit it. So you can choose to stay there or come back or whatever.
I mean, it's like home, where
he's
been nurtured and raised, and then he grows up and gets to go out and.
Yeah, he can go out, but it's not a locked place. It's not just that. Yeah, so it's a choice of staying there or leaving. Yeah.
Near the end, you return to, at least for me, a style that I know your work for, more painterly, with these purples, traditional look for you. Why did you bring that back near the end for the last scenes?
Oh, yeah. Well, in the last scenes, I want to switch in the plant's perspective, which is a different time space, or a different. Yeah, it's a different quality of experiencing time. So that's just how to explain it in English. So it's towards the end we switch into this kind of different time, and so that's visually expressed like that. So that we are in the speed of how the plant feels and grows.
Did you work with this tissue paper? Had you worked with that before?
No, no, just this. That was the first one for, yeah.
And how challenging or easy was that to work with?
Yeah, it was. It was challenging, but we worked around. I worked with the same few people I worked for a few years. So we worked around. We had to pre-animate everything first in a computer, so we had a guide, because the tissues were really starting to decay towards the end of the shots. And we also had to use paint on them. So, but that was the fun part. So I don't know if it's applicable to other projects. I mean, it was very specific for this one, I think.
In terms of production, how long did it take? Was it like much more difficult than with your other films, or?
Yeah, well, it was different because it was different. I mean, I had more people. I had like a team which which was which we worked before for a few years. So it was like Christmas present, yeah. Because we worked on a lot of commissions with a lot of pressures, and then we could, we could a bit experiment. So yes, but because I work with a lot of bits and I'm collecting bits for all the films. So I even found the first inspirations coming from almost 20 years ago with the with this specific motive of with regrowing plants from cuttings.
Growing plants from
cuttings, from reproducing. So it's kind of when you are not growing from seed, but you are growing the same plant from a cut.
You have a big garden there in Bielsko-Biała where you live? Is it that you are, when you are not animating, are you gardening, like in your life, like?
Well, a bit. No, not really. I'm not crazy, but gardening is totally different than plants in a pot. So growing stuff inside is different.
Okay, Chris, you have a last one maybe for Tomek?
No.
Okay, so Tomek, please stay with us. We'll come back.
Thanks.
There will be questions from the audience. Thank you. So we go to the Total Refusal team, and I will just introduce. Total Refusal is Robin Klengel, Leonhard, Müllner, and Michael Stump. In their practice, they critically analyze and appropriate digital game spaces and put them to new use, moving within games but ignoring the intended gameplay. Total Refusal allocates these resources to new activities and narratives in order to create public spaces imbued with critical and subversive potential. That's coming from your webpage, guys. So my first question would be, you are working under a common label or common name or studio or alter ego, whatever it is, Total Refusal, but can you tell us more about your collaboration? Who did what, who is doing what, and also explain what is your professional background?
We are an artist collective which dedicates itself to be a pseudo-Marxist media guerrilla, and we are coming from different directions. Michael is a philosopher and a designer, and Robin is actually a real scientist. He is an urban anthropologist, and me, I am a media researcher and an artist. And we might share a lot of different roles, but in general, Michael is the machinist. He is our techie, and Robin has a lot more skills than me. He's very good in skills, and I try to compensate those two guys to fit into my incapabilities. So that's my role. But actually, I'm the president.
Yeah, he's carrying the responsibilities around. But actually, yeah, the collective is actually bigger. So it's also an open collective. So it's also growing at the moment. It's also like it has the subtitle of a digital disarmament movement. So that's kind of the approach to become a movement in the long term. Yeah,
we're getting some girls too.
Very good.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So the constellations of who works on what and who does what in which project changes from project to project. In the case of How to Disappear, Robin did most of the work on the script with some help from Leon and me. I did most of the cinematography, and Leon did the cut and post-production, a lot of that. And then there were, of course, also other people involved, like Adina Kami for the soundtrack, and a couple of guys who helped with the acting.
Okay, your film is a so-called machinima film, right? So it's the machinima means like a film made with game software, if we put it in just in poor words, but also it's a collection of in-game performances in which several characters refuse to play. Instead, they kill themselves by jumping off cliffs or targeting a standing pole with their machine guns, surprised by the resilience of the pennant. How did the production of the project went, and have you been relying on a script, or have you been improvising after seeing the results of the game tests? So I would say that you were probably playing a lot with this game, which is Battlefield 5, no, for the ones. So maybe try to reply to this confused question of mine.
Right. So yeah, that's correct. So we really come from the perspective of gaming. So we don't mod in this case the game in any sense. We just play it like everyone else can access this game, and also the idea really started from from the game itself. Especially Leonhard and Michael played it a lot for a time, the different Battlefield series, and we had the idea to do something about it for a longer time. Maybe like the first idea was actually not to make a movie, but to do kind of interventions into the game world, to use it as a social space where a lot of people come together. Like there are a lot of people gathered in these multiplayer online shooters, and we thought about to research deserter stories, people that deserted, that ran away from war, and that we would enter these games and would read these stories to the players while they would like just do what they do, like play the game. So basically to confront them with the backside of what is being shown in the games. That was kind of the first idea, but that was tricky because of course we don't change anything in the code, so we have to rely on what the game allows us to do, and it's difficult to communicate with other players, especially those that are not in your squad. So then we kind of decided that we would like to make a movie and to shift this project more into a cinematographic way. And then we wrote a script, we started researching, and the more we read about it and about the history of deserting, the more interesting we found it. So we really decided that it needs to kind of make this path through history in some sense, and to tell the story of deserting, of people that ran away, because their story is really not very often told. Usually in the schools we learn the story of the people that fought the wars, but we never talk about those that ran away. So we decided that we have really to dedicate the whole movie to this topic. And then we wrote the script, and we tried to find places in the game that would allow us to fill this script with imagery, with kind of images that where the logic of these people, of the fighters, of this whole war scenario is kind of broken, or is kind of basically shows people that are not just fighting, but maybe they could also do something else. So we were really searching for these non-violent, militaristic poses, places, scenarios, and actions, performances that you could find within this software.
Which is trickier than it sounds in a game where you can't even throw away a weapon. Like, of course, I mean that means the potential for interaction, for non-violent interaction you have, is quite limited, and this is an aspect that also changed the nature of the project during the writing and development process, because we discovered kind of parallels between how games are structured, or how this game is structured, in how it funnels players into a certain scope of action, and of course there are some parallels to the historical background that we talk about with measures like nationalism or the drill being structures or mechanics that facilitate obedience in real wars. So that also had an effect on the project, and that also made it essential that it's not just a movie, but rather still a series of performances and interventions, which means that all the scenes that we did were shot in actual running games with other players. You can't, like, this game doesn't allow you to kind of start up your own server and play in an isolated space. So you're always with other players, in this case on a server with 64 players each, with meaning that given that we worked in a team of 4, there were 60 players that didn't, that were not part of the actual they were part of the shoot, but they didn't know it, and of course this has an influence on how you film and makes the movie into sort of like an actual intervention at the same time, because you come in conflict with players who just want to go about their business playing the game as they're used to.
Chris?
Well, first I wanted to say when Igor was sending me the list of films to look over, and I came to this one and saw a video game 20 minutes, I was like, oh shit, I don't want to. But I was completely like riveted, and it went by very fast. But I wanted to ask about the narrator. I don't know if there are different versions you've used, but in this case, I found it interesting that you picked a woman to narrate. I don't know if that was conscious in this world that's very male.
First of all, you're not a pro gamer. No. Of course, we use a female voice in that version. It was Katie Tanner, cause and an old one. It was also important to have an old voice, to have something which is very remote, like the remotest from the actual setting we are in. We are stuck in, because it's not just about computer games. It's about politics. It's about desertions. It's about our like past and current understanding of war and disobedience in general as a machine which drives democracy or totalitarianism. So in that wise, we wanted to have some sonic atmosphere, some vocal atmosphere, I mean, which shifts away from the gaminess of the setting.
But it was, sorry, no, go on with your questions. Let's not talk so long.
Yes, no, I'm not a gamer at all. Well, I play hockey games once in a while. But, the issue of desertion too. I mean, there are other war games. I imagine you've tried some of them. Is it a common thing that's just not a part of these landscapes, these areas of play? And if that's the case, do you think that's something intentional when people are creating these games, or you're just not thinking about that?
I mean, yeah, I think, as you say, the interesting part is that you don't even realize that there is a world around you, or that you are in a possibly like in a way in a world that looks like you could just go anywhere, but instead, like, the players are because they're caught in their own motivation, and kind of the setting is done in a way that they would just voluntarily start to fight each other, so they don't even realize that actually this world is very limited. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that we found really interesting, that there's kind of a really hidden ideology or kind of political framing that would just force you to fight each other without even kind of voluntarily making this decision that you would. So it's kind of so obvious that you wouldn't ever really think about this possibility that you could actually kind of visit the horizon, even though of course the players, they are interested in this kind of questions. They don't just fight. Of course everybody's interested to test out the limits of the game, so that's what players often do. But usually if you play a game, of course, that doesn't really, how the landscape looks like, it doesn't really matter. And we thought, let's take this serious. Let's take this landscape as it would be a real landscape, as it would be a real world, and how does it actually work? That was kind of the approach.
Is there a chance we can look at your film also as maybe like criticizing this the online war games playing and the addiction that comes with that? Is there a slight chance that this could be the message as well? Addiction of playing too much online games, yeah.
Addiction is a strong word because it refers to pathology. Games video games are providing the most immersive tools of sucking you in, more than TV did with us when we had been young in the 90s or 80s or whatsoever, that our parents dragged us away from television, because you have the video and you have also the participation, and you need to do a quest after a quest after a quest, and everything leads to one another, and then you get rewarded for everything. So if you get swallowed by that, like parents or teachers name that addiction, but addiction means you can't live without it.
But I mean, of course there is. I wouldn't, obviously it's not about addiction at all, but there is a critique in there which deals with video games in general, and that's that. And that also goes back to the last question about why there is no space for a deserter in games in general. It's not just that. This isn't just the case like on a mechanical side that you don't really think about going to the horizon because the game funnels you into certain actions. It's also because games are at a space where they are dealing with ambivalent and political topics in a really odd way. At least that's true for the mainstream, like what's called the AAA blockbuster game scene, where you obviously have all these contents, you know, dealing with war and brutality and other highly political topics, while at the same time developers are still kind of trying to maintain games as a sort of like all-inclusive in the most capitalist possible way of the meaning of the word setting, by kind of like pretending that there is no space for politics at all in the realm of games, which is obviously crap. I mean, it's a farce. So that would be, I guess, the main critique in terms of our critique at games, blockbuster games as a whole.
Talking about capitalism, what about copyright issues? How did you approach those? Because like I don't really understand. Is the company producing it? Did you approach them or not? What's the story about it?
So yeah, I mean, you know, there's this small scene of machinima artists that work with computer games, and it's a small world. So I think by now we almost know everybody that's in the field that works with computer games. And I would now say that I think everybody that works with a software that is like with big mainstream blockbuster games isn't officially entitled to do so. But the industry, that the video game industry is of course very interested in ventilation of their products, that their products are being shown and broadcasted in a broad sense. So millions of people do that every day on YouTube. There's tons of videos of people that film themselves how they play video games, and of course the industry is happy with that fact, because by that it's a commercial for their product. And yeah, so everybody's kind of has this question either to use the video games or not to use them. Officially, it's really tough, basically not possible. So everybody kind of uses this gray space, which is a legal gray zone, to just use them and use them in a very creative way in order to tell different stories. Yeah, that's basically the only possibility to use these softwares. But of course, it's kind of precarious, and yeah, it would be a tough legal case if the computer games industry would want to sue us, but we are very happy that they don't. So if anyone watches, thank you a lot.
No, I think we would be happy if they would, because it would cause us enormous attention if Ubisoft, like a $1 billion a company, would sue us, because in that very moment there would be a lot of appreciation of us Davids against Goliaths. Like they won't do that because they just sue somebody who has money. Like in the recent case with Twitch. So like the game on YouTube, it happened like, yeah, so that's it.
Chris, you have the last one?
Just I just wondered about beyond just the realm of the game, if you'd thought about like the effects that these games are having on people's, especially young people, I guess, their philosophies and the way they're living in the world, not just with desertion, but, you know, in the film you talk about just kind of this binary thing. It's kill or be killed, live or die. There's no ethics and stuff like that. You know, and even deserting, not having it in there. Anybody playing, young people who don't know any better, haven't read history or whatever, maybe don't even think that's an option, you know, that you can just decide, hey, I want to do this.
This is my favorite question, because it's what is for us about. So computer games are creating social reality more than other medias in this time, much more, because there is much more money in it, there is much more attention in it, there is not much more politics in it behind, like in the backstage. So it is like creating our consensus. And if we go for Marshall McLuhan and want to look at society as it is right now, talking about itself without like an elitist perspective, which goes to the history books, which goes into some parliament protocols, which is like the story told by those who rule the society. If you don't want that, then you have to look through mass media onto society, because there you have the common sense of our society, which is like a liberal capitalist one. And what is so interesting to look how we shape good and bad, like this, if we put it money cake perspective, how it is created, why killing someone, what kind of features this person or this like whatever antagonist has to have that we are entitled to kill it or him or her. Yeah. So this is what is interesting us, and of course under the glossy surface of hyperrealism there is a lot of politics, as Michael puts it already out. We want to decover by doing so. So the gamers, they really know most times that they, or in very often in most cases that they are on the good side. But actually, the good side is framed. It's done. It's like in a film. Yeah, you have a camera which which is you basically. The camera is your perspective. So in a computer game, you're interactive. So this is about to shape your social reality.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because there's a moment where you talk about the soldiers doing the drills and stuff, and how they're machines, and the game players themselves are sort of in that same role. They're machines or extensions of machines in some way.
Yeah, but that's also because the game is created in a way that leaves little space for reflection. It's not made in a way for you to think of whether you could go over there and run to the horizon and lay down your weapons. Like from the moment you log into the game, you know, you've got red icons on your heads-up display. So what do? You run towards the red icons, you shoot at the red icons or whatever. So it's streamlined in a way to facilitate a certain intended behavior and gameplay, and for that to run smooth, reflection, space reflection is kind of cut out, and that's why that gives players this kind of machinistic character. Which, I mean, to be fair though, saying this for all games would be a gross generalization. This is something that is true for competitive shooters like Battlefield. There are plenty of examples where that would not hold true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Total Refusal. We have to go on. We have only 20 minutes left. Luckily, there are no questions from our followers. So we will have a last round of them at the very end, but we have to go on. So we pass to Samuel Patthey, the co-director of the film Pill. And just I read a short bio. Samuel Patthey and Sylvain Monet, the co-director, were born in 1993. They studied animation at Lucerne University of Applied Science and Arts in Switzerland. Both of them directed a few short animation films before they teamed together to direct Pill. They are based in Fribourg, Switzerland. Samuel, you made a beautiful animated documentary, hand-drawn, which is also kind of nowadays, it must be appreciated even more. But on the other hand, it's the topic of the retirement home is present today more than ever with the COVID pandemic. In Slovenia, for example, the mortality rate is very high, and the government didn't find a solution for that on time in retirement homes. How is the situation in Switzerland? And actually, it's like you made this film much before this pandemic started, right?
Yes, of course. The movie was created much more. We just finished actually the movie when it started. So when the pandemic started, we just released the movie, and the situation in Switzerland actually is quite the same as in many other countries in Europe, I think. And we wanted to show the movie to make a private screening for the people that we draw there. In a senior residency where we were, and it was not possible. Like one day before would have been possible, but they just shut it down just one day before. So it's the same. Many people actually died also in senior residencies nowadays, and it's still closed down. So we had like the first wave, then a break kind of, and then the second wave, which now is just closed down for everyone.
How did you got the idea to make an animated documentary depicting the everyday life in the retirement house residents, and how long have you been analyzing and sound recording everything in that particular retirement house?
So you're right, it's a documentary. We call it documentary because it's live action, live observation drawing from the site. And the idea came actually when I visited my grandmother 5 years ago. So I was still studying, and I decided actually to do. I wanted to do a movie about this place because I thought it's such a weird and specific little world that is still in our world, but no one wants to know more about it, and no one wants to see it because there are many things that we don't want to see in our actual society. So I decided to kind of use again this way I like to make movies and go and ask to visit the senior residency and to kind of set myself and draw with my sketchbook. And I asked my my study friend, Sylvain Monet, to make again a movie with me, because it was the first after the studies. And he jumped in, and we went to this senior residency during 1 year to make observations. So kind of 3 days a week, we went there 3 to 4 hours, and we were just drawing people. So it was very nice to have the access to nearly everything from the senior residency. We could just go and walk. And even when people invited us in their rooms, we could go and draw them. So we were just kind of little flies in this system, and trying just to capture some moments of life, of their lives.
Chris?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in these places, unfortunately. I thought you really captured that nicely, that whole fragment, just sitting there, this fragment outline, sketchy style, because these things are just passing before you and you don't really know the whole picture. I don't know if there is a whole picture sometimes. Okay, you answered some of these questions already. A couple of things. There's those couple of moments where color comes into play. Why at those moments with color?
So more about the technique. We really wanted to stay as close as possible to the sketchbook. So we kept on doing analog animation, because it was the closest we could do to the sketchbooks we had, and to stay authentic as possible. And the color was also induced by this idea of directly observation drawings, what we wanted to capture with the eyes and show to the audience. So some stuff are kind of pink, like some pills are pink, and it can show, for example, all the medical aspect of the senior residency, and the goal of the color is just to capture the eye and bring it to a place. And the colored scene of the trip was just more interesting, also to have it in colors. Yes.
Did you know, in terms of the narrative, I'm assuming you didn't know where this was going to go. You just did your sketches and maybe looked at them and started to piece together.
Exactly.
Or like, did somebody actually die when you were there? And did that trigger?
Actually, I think many people died when we were there. Not especially when we were there at the moment. We did one night there to really capture also kind of all 24 hours living time there. We wanted to capture the night also, and how the old elderly people live at night there. So we saw a scene that was kind of close to death scene, that the ambulance came very early in the morning and then someone left. So we didn't saw exactly the scene, but we imagined that it was a person who died. So as you said, there was no scenario behind the movie.
Samuel, we are losing you. So I think we lost him. Get stuck. Okay, I suggest we go. Yes, now yes. Okay, can you finish your sentence? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will try another connection. Just a second. As I said, the movie it's not a written movie, so the scenario of the movie just came kind of naturally with everything while researching the things. So it was not.
We're losing you again. I suggest we go to Natko and then we return to Samuel. If he please come back, try to reconnect. And I have a final question for Samuel as well. Okay, Natko, 10 minutes to police hour.
Now,
no, it's not working, Samuel.
Is it better?
No, we are still losing you.
Oh, sorry.
But try to reconnect. We go to Natko
Okay.
and then we return back to you. Okay. Okay. So the last guest in 10 minutes. Police hour starts in Slovenia, so I have to be home. But somehow I will manage, so we can take it a little bit longer. I would say. Natko Stipaničev graduated with bachelor's degree from the Arts Academy in Split, Department of Film and Video, and earned a master's degree from the Academy of Fine Arts in Zagreb, Department for Animated Film and New Media. He makes animated films and music. Natko, Arka is your professional debut film. And
Yes.
it's a tale of a grandiose voyage, as you put it on the poster, as a self-promotion. When have you started to think about this story? And is there a loose reference to the Titanic sinking and or the biblical tale of Noah's Ark?
The main idea came before 4 years ago, and the production lasted for maybe 2.5, 3 years because I learned the program parallel with making the film. The idea came in Madeira, watching cruisers go in and out from the port. The main inspiration maybe was we started talking about the cruisers, the Titanic, and then I remember those musicians playing while the Titanic is sinking, and that was the main idea. Later, the whole script basically arose from that idea. Also, just want to say that the film is written and directed in a way that gradually reveals all the important information. So for the viewer, it's better not to know anything about the film. So if any of the audience didn't see the film, I suggest better to close this Q&A so it doesn't reveal any information.
Okay, you're coming from Split on the Croatian Adriatic coast. It is not like in Dubrovnik, but still probably you wanted also to criticize this extended growth of luxury cruiser tourism, is it?
Well, not exactly. Well, my hometown is eaten by tourism as well. There aren't any cruisers, but like there aren't any place for us domestic people. When the summer comes, I feel alienated from my hometown, and the feeling is like just move on and move the place, allow the place for the tourists. But basically, the film is not the criticism of tourism, and the main idea didn't arouse from that. But if you see that, why not? I'm gladly that there is another perspective of the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's like let be then.
It's not up to you anymore once the film's out there. So
yes.
Doesn't matter what you think.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. On one hand, yeah, I certainly thought of the cruise ship thing. I have relatives who go on these ridiculous cruises, and they tell me about the swimming pools and the cinemas and shopping, and they didn't even look at the water. You know, it's just absurd. But it felt, I mean, to me, it felt like a little metaphor or whatever for society, just kind of materialistic society drifting aimlessly. And one thing because I know we're running out of time, when the boat's starting to sink, sorry, spoilers, nobody attempts to leave. You know, when you think of the Titanic or other things, everybody's just, ah, and it's just complete calm. Everybody's just going to go down. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, well, that's the maybe second or third thing to notice in a film. First the sinking, then the animals, and then the third that nobody is taking it's they are used to and stuff. Well, I cannot talk about it like when I was writing a script. I felt that, well, basically, it is kind of a comment on modern society, to be short, to this kind of period that we live in.
Natko, you were on the film for almost 3 years, and you were telling us before that you were learning also the 3D program, because the film is a 2D, 3D computer animation. But you had other difficulties, because also let's say that in the film there is a lot of characters made in 3D, which takes a lot of time. I would say, okay, now there are probably some ways to shortcuts how to make it maybe easier. But besides that you learned the technology, the program, you had other problems in terms of like closing or making the film like a finale?
No. Once I made the script, there wasn't any problems. I have a clear script, and I started producing in parallel learning. But the main idea was basically the rounded. It was all rounded from the beginning, and then with building a script, I just filled in the inside. But the beginning and the end, I had a clear thing.
Which program you used? Was it Blender or?
Cinema 4D and After Effects and some Photoshop and stuff.
Okay. Chris, do you have a last question for Natko, maybe?
Just about the music. I noticed you had Vivaldi and Bach in there. Can you just explain your choices for music? When I was building Animateka, I had a hunch that Vivaldi would go nicely, which it did. The first song that I put fitted incredibly, but then we had a problem with copyright because the budget was very low and we couldn't pay the copyright of the version. So we decided to do it ourselves in our home studio, and I found the opera singer, and we basically did the whole song here in this little studio here on the 12th floor. It was a quest. Like I didn't know how would that be, but at the end the results were satisfying.
Okay, thank you very much, Natko. And let's go back to Samuel for a second moment, if he's still with us. Are you there? Yeah. So it's like you were. I would try. Yeah, I will ask you this final maybe question. How did you work with 4 eyes and 4 hands? Actually, like 2 directors. At the end, like you explained already, you were there. You were taking sketches. Everybody, both you were drawing. But then, when it came to editing and to make the final film, you worked together, or it was mainly you taking the decisions?
Yes. No, we worked on.
You're freezing, huh? Okay, so I don't think that we will finish this one with Samuel. Now we have you, but when you start to talk, you freeze. So it's a really awkward situation.
We could just make up the answer.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do?
Is there anybody that wants to say something for the end? Something very important that we forgot? Or Tomek, did you get back in shape at the beginning? You were a little bit pale, and now you had a
yeah. Yes, it's very strange because I haven't seen anyone for 1 year, and I didn't realize that Chris Robinson and Igor Prassel even just on a screen will make me sweaty. But it was a good. I feel like.
Do you have a fever or headache or any other?
Well, just when I saw you both on the same time on my screen, that is good. I'm really missing to see. I never seen my film, with the audience.
In the
because
cinema.
it just came out when COVID started. So, but it was nice to see you, and also nice to hear the other guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Total Refusal team. You are lucky because me and Chris, we are not gamers, and we otherwise this discussion. But on the other hand, I have a feeling that with you three, we could talk for hours, because your film is really opening a lot of questions, very important questions for the society, and I really hope that it will be seen from as many people as possible.
We're ready whenever you want to discuss it more. We're there.
I think I will invite you to Ljubljana, and we will have an extra screening in the cinema, and we will talk about it, because I think it's very important. Yes.
If you bring your Serbian Slivovitz with you.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Chris, from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Thank you, everybody, that you took your time and your patience to answer to our questions. And I just want to say hello to all the listeners and followers that are with us online. And tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, we are starting with the AnimatekaPRO, and we have a special guest, Mariusz Wilczynski from Poland. Will talk about his feature animated film, Kill It and Leave This Town. He took 14 years in the making of, and he will explain everything tomorrow at 10 in the morning at AnimatekaPRO. Thank you. It was a long day. We are meeting in 30 minutes for some post-festival, or how to say, like non-official festival gatherings. So guys, if you are in the mood to drink and to speak more and to chat more, also with girls, not only with boys, welcome. 30 minutes. Thank you very much again. And well, hope to see you everybody soon live, drink with you and everything. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Samuel, now we hear you very good. That's
sorry. No, it's because I'm in a room in a hotel, and I don't have the right Wi-Fi that I should have. So
okay.
it's sometimes stuck. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Ciao.